Macabra. Terror real.
Hola criaturas de la noche, bienvenidos a Macabra. Yo soy Chris Stonehead y me encuentro con Kevin Lewis, director de las aterradoras películas WILLY'S WONDERLAND y The Accursed, que por fin llegará a salas de cine mexicanas bajo el título de Herencia Diabólica.
Él es oscuridad, él es susurros, él es real.
Hi Kevin, I'm Chris from Macabra, a Mexican page dedicated to horror. Thank you so much for your time. We are thrilled that your film, The Accursed, will finally reach theaters here in Mexico. The entire country loves WILLY'S WONDERLAND, and we can't wait to watch The Accursed.
That's fantastic, Chris. Thank you for having me.
First question, why horror? What drew you into the horror genre? What was your first experience with horror movies?
Okay, well, I can answer that one. There was a movie called Burnt Offerings that was a made-for-TV movie with Oliver Reed back in the day when I was real young, and my parents was gone at night, and I turned the TV on, and I saw this movie, and it just resonated with me. It freaked me out, and I could never stop getting those images out of my head. It was a made-for-TV movie, you know. And then as you get older, right, you dabble in things, and of course, The Shining is my favorite, I would say, horror movie. And then, of course, you know, when movies that made me understand kind of what a director does and a filmmaker does was like Evil Dead 2, Sam Raimi, you know. And so that's why when I made WILLY'S WONDERLAND, Sam Raimi was a very big inspiration for me making that film. With The Accursed, I wanted to go back to the old 70s horror, you know, like we just talked about with Burnt Offerings, The Changeling with George C. Scott, you know, The Exorcist, William Friedkin, like those, The Omen, those were the kind of movies that I grew up with. Atmospheric, slow burn, setting the world and the mood and the tone, and knowing there's dread around every corner, but not what corner, you know, and following the characters. At the end of the day, it's an emotional ride with the characters, and I want to create that world that it's a very kind of a gloomy ride because they haven't dealt with things from their past. They haven't dealt with things, and so with all of us, we have things to deal with, right? To move on, to transition, to be the next better person of ourselves that we can be. And so that's what this movie is. It's about the sins of the mothers passed on to the daughters. And a favorite expression of mine is, it doesn't get you till it gets you. And that's kind of what I had in mind when I was making this movie, is that we all have our demons. And this movie physically, you know, has one. And that's kind of what the metaphor is for all the things that we've gone through. Human beings are very complex. And that's what I wanted to do in this film. It's not kind of black and white. There's a lot of gray. And to go on this journey with Ellie and just to figure out what's going on and just starts peeling back the layers one by one till you get to the whole thing. And even at the end, it kind of leaves you with some questions, you know, and those are my favorite kind of movies.
Hola.
Llamo de parte de la señora Ambrose. Necesita quien la cuide. Tu madre te recomendó.
¿Mi madre? En serio, estamos en medio de la nada.
Estaré bien.
Qué miedo. ¿Siempre estuvo parada ahí?
In the film, we see also a strong presence of themes like occultism, witchcraft, and Satanism. Did you research these topics to portray them in the movie?
I did. And what's really cool about that is that a lot of that stuff, the props and things, are very handcrafted. Those were made original. And so we're in this world now of VFX and just kind of VFX this and VFX that and stuff. And everything ours was very tangible, that you could touch it and feel it and see it there. And so I did research. I work with some wonderful artists, and for me, I'm all about filmmaking as a team sport. And so you want to get you have a vision, and you want to get people to be to buy into that vision, and that's the crew. And you work with talented people to work towards going up that mountain together. And so we had wonderful craftsmen and artists on the Accursed. But that was one of my things I wanted to do, was make it real, make it physical, that you could feel it, you could see it, you could touch it, the texture, the book that Ellie finds and things like that. That was all real, you know. So that was exciting to build that world.
La señora Ambrose es una mujer reservada.
¿Tiene familia?
Te presentaré a tu paciente ahora.
Señora Ambrose, ¿me escucha?
Speaking about the supernatural, have you ever had a paranormal experience, something like that?
You know, I never have, but I can tell you a story my mom told me, which is really interesting.
Okay.
My father was in Vietnam. He was a Green Beret, Special Forces Vietnam, and he was walking with his platoon one day, and my mom was back home in the States, and she was making her bed, and she told me she saw him, and she said, "Wayne, move to the left." And he was walking with his platoon, and he just heard my mom. And he just felt, when he was walking, he just sauntered to the left. Well, when he did that, a mortar came and blew up most of his troops. He saved a couple. And he got 2 silver stars and one bronze for that. But that also always resonated with me, that he heard her voice and just something made him move, and there it was there. So when I heard that story, I was like, wow. You know, it's interesting with paranormal, just like with religion, you know, I think it's very individual, you know, and people's experiences and what's happened in your life and what you can relate to and translate to. For me, with the Accursed, it was about human beings are very complex, like I said, and there's darkness and lightness within all of us. Even the baddest of the bad think they're doing the good thing, right? So, you know, it's not black and white like a lot of people try to paint it to be. We're very complex creatures. And I really believe, especially as I get older and I've got kids now and things, it's like you need to deal with things. For me, making movies is kind of therapeutic, right? So I like to live a normal life, but my movies, you know, I kind of exercise those interests and those kind of fantasies through. And so, you know, for me, it's like we all have our crosses to bear, and this is, like I said, the sins of the mothers passed on to the daughters, and we need to get rid of that so we can transition to the next part of being who we are, who we're capable to be. And when we get stuck, that's when, you know, when you have therapy and things, you're trying to get through things and stuff, and everyone has their problems, right? And my sister said an interesting thing. It's like if everybody could put their problems in a circle and you could pick each other's problems, you take your own, because they're personal. And so each movie to me is a very personal journey that I like to try to translate for the public to experience, that they take away something personal for them. So when they see the Accursed, one person watched the Accursed, and the other one that they could take something that the other one didn't, and vice versa. And that's what I love about art. At the end of the day, it's about evoking emotion. And that's what I wanted to do with the Accursed. I wanted to build that emotional world, that world of darkness, honestly, that's inside us all. And we have to purge it out.
First, thank you for sharing that amazing story. Wow, amazing. Okay, films about demonic possessions are quite common. But the portrayal in The Accursed feels unique and original. Could you tell us more about the creative process behind it? And also, can you tell us more about this striking appearance of the demon in the film?
Yeah. Okay, so we're in an age where there's a lot of content being made, and I don't like that word, but the idea that, you know, people seen this and they do it that way. And I'm on the side of every filmmaker, you know, because it's hard to make movies. You know, the first thing they say is make a movie. Second one is make a good movie, right? So it's like, you know, anyone that's made films know how hard it is. And you are constantly trying to push and trying to do something different. But then if you're set out with that goal, it's just like, okay, then it becomes kind of, I say robotic, but it's like, oh, that's done, so I want to do it this way. Is it, well, why are you doing it this way? Just because it's done before? Maybe it's done before, but you just add a little, you know, it's a recipe, but you add your own little frosting or ingredient on it and it becomes something different, right? And so at the end of the day, I always feel like whatever I take from a movie or whatever, I'm not going to quote unquote rip a movie off, because I'm going to do it through my system, the way I interpret it and the way I see it. So for me, those movies of the 70s was a very big influence. The Changeling and The Shining and The Exorcist and The Omen, and I mean all those amazing influences. But I wanted to make a movie that had practical effects. The demon's practical. That was a full-on body sculpt, and we had a contortionist. He was fantastic, and I wanted the actors to react to something that was there, not something CG. We had CG VFX augment, but it was a practical demon. And for me, it's just what pushes me to get up in the morning to tell the story, right? And I'm always about the characters and what the characters are going through, and the human emotion and the heart, and how we can identify as the audience to the characters. That's what drives me. So yes, it has a demon, it has this, it has that, it's all, that's great, and I love it. I love it. But at the end of the day, it's about Ellie's journey. It's about the sins of the mothers passed on to their daughters. It's about, and I always try to ground myself with the actors, about the characters and the story, because that's what we're here, is to tell a story about the human condition. Because that, to me, what movies are at the end of the day. Raiders of the Lost Ark is one of my favorite movies, okay? And it's got the best stunts. It's got Harrison Ford and Spielberg. It's an amazing film. But it's a human condition in the fact that we used to love cliffhangers back in the day, the cliffhanger serials before the movie, because it gave you the thrill of an adventure. Because I mean, I'm not an archaeologist, right? So it's like I live Indiana Jones. I'm like Indiana Jones. I'm feeling his pain. Indiana Jones, he got beat up. He got one of the scenes in Raiders when he gets shot in the arm and the guy punches his arm like that, right? That was, as a kid, to me, it was like, oh my gosh, I've never seen that. You know, like that's, think about that. This is a popcorn movie we're talking about, but the cruelty of getting shot in the arm and then getting punched when the Nazi punches him. And again, it gets fighting the Nazis, right? Fighting the bad guys. So, I mean, you can look at all these things, and yes, it's an action adventure, but there's so much in Raiders. There's so much in all these films, even Evil Dead, and Sam Raimi was my favorite director. Like Evil Dead 2 and Sam Raimi really showed me what you could do with a camera. And how you can really manipulate the audience and put them into the world. And so all these things were like the ingredients for the Accursed and for Willy's Wonderland and stuff. So I just love telling stories, and I love stories about the human condition. And the Accursed, I felt, was just a great story about grief and about the past haunting you, and about if you don't get rid of it, it will consume you. You know, and you have to move on with life. And in order to move on with life, you have to confront your fears and confront the things you don't want to confront, basically.
We know it's been a while since The Accursed was released, and you are now working on new projects. Could you share a bit about what are you currently working on?
Absolutely. I've got 4 movies. I'm finishing on post-production on 2 of them. One movie is called Oak, which is really cool. It's a horror movie. It's going to be coming out this year, so hopefully we'll get to see each other again soon. And then I did another movie called Misdirection with Olga Kurylenko and Frank Grillo. It was like a home invasion thriller. I'm pretty excited about that one. And then I've got a movie called Pig Hill that has Rainey Qualley. She's Margaret Qualley from The Substance, is her sister. She's amazing in this movie. You got Shane West, Shiloh Fernandez from the Evil Dead remake. I'm finishing post on that right now. That's more of a kind of a David Lynchian surreal horror. It's horror, but it's like very surreal and fever dreamish like. I'm very excited about that right now. I've got the composer who did Willy's doing the music for that movie with me. And then I have a film called I'm Your Driver I just wrapped with Jeremy Piven, And that's a fantastic movie that we're working on right now in post. It takes place in the 90s, and it's about a chauffeur who picks up a group of kids, taking them to prom. And instead of taking them to prom, he takes them to his little hideout and has a little fun with them. And the performances of the kids are fantastic. It's about 60 to 70% takes place inside the limo, which was a really challenge. And Jeremy is amazing, and as always, and so I'm working on that right now. So I'm excited about the future and about these films.
El diablo solo ofrece, nunca toma posesión. Envía a uno de sus sirvientes.
Sé algo que no sabes sobre la señora Ambrose.
Hi guys, I'm Kevin Lewis, director of the Accursed and Willy's Wonderland, and I'm inviting you to check out my new movie, The Accursed. I'm excited for you for horror fans to see this movie, to get the thrills and the chills that I experienced making it, and I really look forward to hearing your input and your on the internet, your critiques. I want to hear what you have to say. I'm a film fan. I'm a film lover, just like each one of you. I know you guys are filmmakers, just like myself, and I made it for the audience. I made it for you, and I'm really excited to hear what you have to say. So thank you for taking the time to check out my movie, and I hope you enjoy it.
Cuando llegue el demonio, verás que 3 dedos emergen de la boca de los maldecidos.
Muchas gracias a nuestros amigos en Darkside Distribution por hacer esta entrevista posible, y recuerden que Herencia Diabólica llegará a salas de cine mexicanas este 13 de marzo. Nos vemos pronto.